different from some Christian authors in that you write both fiction and nonfiction. How are you able to be so versatile, and which do you like better? Is one more difficult than the other?
Well, fiction and nonfiction are two different ways, two different mediums. You know, there's a technique in both of them that overlaps. I mean, certainly a concision and good word choice and getting to the point, and there's certain things that apply in fiction and nonfiction, but because of the story nature of fiction, many nonfiction writers don't do fiction well. They're used to kind of a logical, linear type of thinking that doesn't really necessarily fit with storytelling. Likewise, storytellers who do good on the fiction end of things, sometimes they write their nonfiction book and it doesn't, you know, quite work. Early on, I was very suspicious of my own ability to write fiction because my first 5 or 6 books were nonfiction. But because I love good fiction, I was, you know, probably inspired by C.S. Lewis, among others, to give it a try. I thought, oh, I'll never know whether I can write fiction or not unless I try. So I actually told my publisher, I'm not going to sign a book contract on this because if I do, then I have to deliver this book to you whether it's good or not. And so I'm not going to do that. I have to decide whether I think it's not going to be the world's greatest novel, I know that. You know, the first novel that you write, you know, is not going to be as good as the 4th or 5th novel you write if you give it equal effort. Some people's first novel is their best novel, but that's because they poured themselves into it and they had a good idea, and they haven't had good ideas since then, or they haven't put as much work into it. But I think you should get better at your craft as time goes on. You can't write your 5th novel first. You got to write your first novel first and then get better at it. That's what I did. My first novel was Deadline, and for whatever reason, God has used that book in countless lives. The number of stories that people have come to faith in Christ. You know, I had a physician in Texas who wrote to me saying that he would loan out his single copy of Deadline to his patients, and then he would ask them to bring it back, and he wanted to discuss it with them. And they would do this, and he said, as a result of 8 of people reading Deadline and my then discussing it with them afterwards, he said, I've been able to lead 8 people to Christ who have read this single copy. And probably a lot of authors would say, buy 8 copies for crying out loud. But no, the point is, hey, I'm delighted that one single copy and single copies of my novels that are in prisons, the letters you get from prisoners. Now, sometimes fiction can touch people in ways that nonfiction doesn't, and vice versa, of course.
Right, and